video, we just cut our mannequin's hair. One thing I do want to say that I did not say is when you're spraying the mannequin down, well, two things actually. Make sure you are protecting her face. I know when you get in say board mode, you're like, go, 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 go. And we don't want to be squirting our face because, you know, client protection, safety, infection control. Another thing is your hairbrush. Use this to brush through the hair as you spray it. So this way you can distribute that water a lot more evenly and faster because you only have 30 minutes. All right, so we finished your haircut. Our examiners came through and checked our haircut. We've cleaned up the hair already. We checked to make sure we don't have any hair anywhere, and now we're waiting. So the next thing that's going to happen is your prompter is going to talk about your next step, which is the work area preparation for your new client. I'm going to read off what she's going to say, and then I'm going to pinpoint the things that they're looking for, and then I'm going to do the demonstration. You'll break down your work area and dispose of supplies used in the previous section of this examination. You'll prepare your work area for a new client. You will set up the universal supplies that you will use for the remainder of this examination. You will set up supplies for the following sections of this examination: chemical waving, predisposition test and strand test, highlighting with foil, virgin application, hair color retouch, virgin hair relaxer application. You'll also prepare your client for chemical services. You'll be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 15 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed when you have 8 minutes remaining. Do not demonstrate any procedures until verbal instructions are given and you are instructed to begin. Step back to indicate you have finished. She'll repeat that one more time, and then after the second time, she says, you may begin. Or he. Sorry, I keep calling her she. 4 things that they're looking for. They're making sure that you use a disinfectant, that you disinfect your work area that has the label with English, and it is a manufacturer label. So remember, don't print them off. The second thing they're looking for is to see if you sanitize your hands. Third thing they're looking for is to make sure your supplies are labeled in English, which you should have already done. And then last but not least, they're watching to make sure you put the right stuff in the right items to be disinfected, soil linens, or trash bags. So we're going to get started with that. You have 15 minutes for this section. As we go through it, I'm just going to walk you through it. Make sure you kind of create some notes or write some notes down so you do have those. All right, so womp, womp, womp. Prompter went on, and she said, you may begin. So the first thing I'm going to do, always sanitize. So as of right now in the real world, you just got finished with a client and you're about to begin a new client. Now, you know, if you don't know this, you'll know now you're not supposed to use the same clips and comb on different people without sanitizing and disinfecting them. So, first thing you're going to do is you're going to take off everything that needs to go in items to be disinfected. Put that in your bin. So that will be your clips, your combs, your brushes, your shears, and your razor. Any of the other clips that you have left out, items to be disinfected. So check the hair, that's done. So universal supply, universal supply, universal supply, universal supply. All of these will stay out. I'm just going to put them to the side. I'm going to take my towel, which will go into soiled linens. Finally got something in there. I'm going to take off my cape, which goes into soiled lining. And I'm going to take off my other towel, which goes in the soiled linens, and the clip we used goes into items to be disinfected. So you guys can't see my bags, but I have them all here. All right, so you can keep your mannequin head here if you would like, or you can take her off and put her on the floor. It's just too much up and down for me. So I have to now disinfect the work area because I've cleaned everything off. I decontaminated it. Now remember the rule, while we're wiping, 2 minutes. So once again, if you were aggravated with a haircut and you're stressed out, that's really loud, wipe. All right, if you can get your frustration out with your aggravated with a haircut by wiping, just make sure you guys are doing it for 2 minutes. So this is me doing it without you hearing it right now. If you have Barbicide spray and paper towels, spray it, wait 30 seconds, and then wipe. Really get in there and wipe, you guys. They may have a little more stricter guidelines for State Board with COVID, so do make sure you read up on that. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes, at least 100 seconds. So that goes into the trash can. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up my kit, which is my dry sanitizer, and I am going to go ahead and get everything out of it. So you can dump it out or you can nicely put it out. Neater, the better. One thing I do have in here that I did not include in the kit packing are a couple paper towels. Normally, my students always bring the spray bottles. This was gonna be the first year that we were gonna try to do wipes. So if you have the spray, the barbicide spray, not spray bottle, the barbicide spray, then you already have a roll of paper towels out. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a towel. This way I can lay it out and start putting everything where I want it to be. So let's think in kind of order of what we're gonna be doing today as well. Here's my second first aid supply. So I'm just gonna put it with my first one, kind of just up beside it. And then I'm going to stack all of my cholesterols. Think about the order that you do want to stack them in. Go ahead and get your clips out. Your predisposition and strand test, you can fold that. So we're gonna do our relaxer last. We're gonna do our lightener and our color. Go ahead and take the other towels out. All right, you'll need your protective cream. We'll be doing our chemical wave first. So I'm gonna go ahead and spread that out. I'm gonna go ahead and get this out too. For your chemical wave with your solution, I highly suggest to go ahead and poke a hole in the top and then put a little bit of plastic in it. While you're doing your setup, go ahead and take the plastic out and just be careful not to knock this over. And that goes in your trash. Go ahead and get out all of your brushes, color brushes. I'm gonna need your tail combs. You're gonna need gloves. Put this over here with my universal on. You're gonna need some foils. And you're gonna need some end papers. Make sure your end papers are already pinwheeled out. You can just kind of lay them on your foils. Or you can, if you don't wanna, you can put your foils like over here. You get them out of the way. And I got a brush. Alright, so this bag goes into the trash. And then my paper towels I'm gonna set right here. And once again, you do want to make sure that your examiner can see everything, so make sure the labels are up. Awesome sauce. So we're gonna drape her. We're draping her for a chemical draping. So for a chemical draping, you use 2 towels and 1 drape. So the first towel is going around her neck. You want this to be as high as you can get that towel. Very high up there. The reason is because you want the examiner to see towel, cape, towel. So I'm gonna go all the way around with that. And then I'm going to use one of my clips to clip it. And you can bring one of the smaller clips. I would refrain from using metal. We are not supposed to use metal clips when we are doing a chemical service. And we are pretending to do chemical services right now. So using a metal clip may be counteractive. It's kind of against the rules. Now, will your examiner fail you? I'm not an examiner, I can't answer that. But is it the wrong way to do it? Yes, it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and place my chemical cape around. Make sure you rub that Velcro in. If you're just laying the Velcro down, it's not gonna stick. Make sure that the cape goes on backwards again, so that short side in the front. And then I'm gonna take another towel. I'm gonna fold it. And I'm gonna make sure that you can see this towel underneath the cape, or on top of the cape. So you want your examiner to be able to see all three at all times. Once again, we are making this neat for our examiners to see, so the whole time that they're looking at our station and our mannequin, it's automatically clean and precise. If it's a big mess, they're gonna kind of look at it funny, and then that's when they're gonna start picking or pinpointing out things. So as long as you stay neat and organized, you look 10 times better doing it. All right, so I'm gonna check her draping. She's good. I've gotten everything out. I still have some time. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my twist tie off of my rods. I'm gonna lay that out. Might not want to twist it so much before you put it in. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay that out. And the reason I twist them like that is just so I can keep them neat and they're not gonna be all tangly and I'm dropping them left and right. And the twist tie goes into the trash. You can kind of rearrange your stuff the way you want it once you look at everything. But I think for today and for now, this is going to be how I have everything. And I do have an extra towel. I'll show you what this towel is for momentarily. Once I like the way it's set up, the next thing I'm gonna do is sanitize my hands. Put that back with my universal supplies and sanitize. So once again, you have 15 minutes. So let's check real quick. So we got 4 things. Did I disinfect the table with EPA registered disinfectant? Yes. Did I sanitize my hands? I sure did before and after setup. Are my supplies labeled? Yes. Are my labels neat? Can my examiner see the labels? This is why you want your examiner to see the label. If she can look over and see label, 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 check automatically. If she has to kind of walk around, maneuver, she may, or he may be like, oh, well, some of this stuff is labeled, but some of it's not. So do I give you a check or not? So you don't want to put yourself in that position. And last but not least, did I dispose of everything properly? So just make sure you guys get in the habit of that and think about that as you practice. All right, work area is done. Yeah, the only thing I will say that I have up on the board for a tip, if you touch the trash can, sanitize your hands. Once again, if you touch the trash can, so if I actually physically touch the bag, sanitize afterwards. Okay, so your 5th thing that we're doing at State Board is your chemical wave. So I'm gonna read what the prompter is gonna read to you, and then I'm going to read what you're gonna be evaluated on, and then I'm gonna demo some of it, so bear with me. You'll perform chemical waving. You will wrap the entire back section of the head from the crown to the nape. Once you have finished wrapping, please step back and wait for your next and verbal instructions to begin. Do not perform the saturation procedure, a test curl, or removal of the rod until instructed individually by the examiner to do so. Do not remove the remaining rods until you are instructed to do so. You will be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 20 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed when you have 10 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished and you may begin. So she'll read it twice and then she'll say you may begin. So for the first 20 minutes, these are the 4 things that you are going to be evaluated on. Are your chemical waving supplies labeled in English? Are your implements and supplies visibly clean? Do you subsection the hair for the chemical wave service? Do you wrap the hair without any frizzies, without any bumps? Is it nice and smooth around the rod? And do you have the correct rod placement throughout the entire section? So for time's sake, I am not going to roll it. I have one already rolled, so let me grab that real quick. We will do a little switcheroo. So I just threw one together, and it's not perfect because there's some things I'm going to talk about. So first things first, you want to make sure that it stays more of in a straight line rather than a zigzag. You want to make sure these are smooth. You can see some of them are not fully smooth. You should be able to see it on the first one. If not, I know the last one was drooping. But you want to take your comb, and if your comb can fit through any of these spaces are too wide. One thing I always tell my students and other instructors have said, you want your rods to be kissing. They got to be showing love. Don't have your bands all twisted. I've seen students twist the bands around just so they can get it nice and tight. They want the bands across the top, all in order. Remember, the neater the better. So when you roll this, you have 20 minutes to roll it. Now, do you have to wear gloves? No, not while you're rolling a perm. All right, you're working on wet hair. You're not working on a chemical yet. During the wrapping, rolling process, you do not need to. All right, so this is the comb that I used to do all of this. I went from the crown to the nape, straight down the center. I went ahead and parted her into about 6 sections. Your book has you guys use 9 parts to prep for or to prepare the hair to roll a perm. You do not need to take that time and do 9 sections. Just do from the crown to the nape, all right? You're already nervous, your heart's already beating. We're doing just what we need to for this part. Okay, so let's pretend timer's been going on. I completely rolled it. I'm gonna set this comb down because I can still use this comb. And I'm just gonna wait for my examiner to give me the next instructions. Waiting. Okay, time's up. So the prompter is going to come up and say, please stop until further instructions have been given or everyone indicates they are ready. Or if you have a proactive examiner, she may come up or he may come up to you, because there are boy and girl ones, and say, go ahead and do these things that we're about to do. If the examiner tells you to do it, go ahead and do it, but don't do it before the examiner gets there. Okay, so my examiner is going to come up and the examiner is going to say, please demonstrate saturation. So at this time, I'm about to use a chemical. So I want a pair of gloves. I'll pick up my gloves. Now, if you've noticed, when I got done wrapping, I didn't sanitize my hands. I'm not done with this client yet. And then if you do sanitize your hands, it's going to be more difficult for you to put gloves on. So you'll notice throughout some of this, I won't sanitize my hands in the beginning because I'm putting gloves on. Technically, I'm working on the same client. So if your examiner or if your instructor tells you to sanitize your hands, make sure you do it. One thing I tell my students to do is put some protective cream. I have them practice with the protective cream at the nape and hairline, mainly because I've had a lot of clients that are very sensitive right there. So you can put your top back on it. I'll just put it back. All right, so next thing I gotta do is protect the rest of the hair. So I'm gonna take some cotton. I only need just a little bit and I don't need the rest. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this away. I like to clean up as I go. So I wanna make sure it goes around fully. And then I'm going to saturate. All right, so for saturation, make sure you guys are going from left and right. Make sure you're paying attention, slowly doing it, and you're rotating the rod. So I kind of have my mannequin turn. I'm going to do a few of them. So you want to take your time, and you want to fully hit all of the hair on the rod or wrapped around the rod. This is what they're looking for. They're looking to see if you can properly saturate a rod. If you cannot properly saturate a rod, your perm is going to come out completely uneven. So continue to saturate throughout the entire head until your examiner tells you to stop. Okay, so my examiner just told me to stop. So I'm done with this. I can either place it down or I can go ahead and throw it in the trash. I tell my students to go ahead and throw it in the trash. Once again, if you touch the trash can, you better sanitize these gloves. So the next thing that your examiner is going to ask you to do is to demonstrate a test curl. So a test curl, I like to pick the rod that's on the curve of the head. So I'm going to roll it out. Now the hair is going to be wet, so you can just roll it out about halfway, a couple rolls, and give it a little bit of a push, and you should be able to see the curl pattern in there. And then I'm going to roll it back gently, and I'm going to clip it back. And I'm going to step back. And then the next thing my examiner is going to say is, please demonstrate the removal of one rod. So I'm going to step back up. You can do the bottom one. Really doesn't matter. Go ahead and take out, when you're taking this rod out, this is what they're watching to make sure you fully rotate the rod all the way out. You grab the end paper, take it off the rod, and then take the end paper off the ends. Then they're watching to see if you put this in the trash, which is your end paper, and your rod in the items to be disinfected. Now, they started doing this because when I went to state board, this is how we took all our rods. You never do that. And they started seeing that, so make sure you guys are fully rolling it down. All right, so after you have taken one out, you're gonna step back and you're gonna wait. Once everybody has went through the saturation, the test curl, and the removal, then your prompter is gonna come back on. And she's gonna say, all examiners have indicated they are ready to proceed. You have 5 minutes to remove all the rods from the back of the head and create 5 seconds for the remaining, and create 5 sections, not seconds. So let me rewind. All right. All examiners have indicated they are ready to proceed. You will have 5 minutes to remove all the remaining rods from the head and create 5 sections for the remaining chemical services. Step back to indicate you have finished, and then she'll say it again, and then she says you may begin. So at this time, I'm gonna kind of just demonstrate taking everything off. Go ahead and take off your cotton first, trash, obviously, and then you're gonna start taking the rods. Now you have 5 minutes. Make sure you are fully rolling out every single rod, because if you go in here and you're doing this, and this, or this, you're not being safe with your client and you can get a 0. So I know that looks rough, but that's exactly what happened. All right, so we're just gonna kind of switch her back. I'm still taking out the rods, so pretend. All right, so let's do another switcheroo. So taking out the rods, taking out the rods, taking out the rods. And I have taken my last rod out on that. Let me reevaluate then. All right, sweet. All right, so I've taken all of her rods out. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to, before I take my gloves off, I'm going to look at my station and see if there's anything that I can remove from my station that was used only for chemical waving. So at this time, I'm gonna take all of my perm rods that are left over. Those go in items to be disinfected. I'm gonna take my leftover end papers. That goes into items to be disinfected. I'm gonna go ahead and take off my gloves now. I've taken all the rods out. This goes in the trash. Oh, forgot a rod. Items to be disinfected. Take a look. Make sure there's nothing else that I don't need anymore. And then I'm gonna use that same comb still and put her into 5 partings. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So keep in mind the hair is going to be a little damp. Now when it comes to the 5 partings, you guys, you don't have a mirror in front of you, just do as best as you can. That's what I'm doing today. You cannot have markings on your mannequin. So for those of you that struggle with the parting part, do not put dots on your mannequin. If there's dots on your mannequin, you can have points taken off. They consider that cheating because you're marking and you're not learning or going off the curvature of the head. Alright. So kind of check, make sure it's about where you want it to be. Go ahead and clip that out of the way. Now, when you clip the hair up, do make sure that you do keep it neat. You guys, we don't want hair in our mannequin's face. And the reason you do want to keep it pretty neat is because each section on her head is going to have a different thing going on. So the neater, the better. You can use duckbill clips or you can use crocodile clips. That is all up to your liking. So we do 5 sections. You have 1 on the top, 2 on the sides, and then 2 in the back. So your mannequin can stay looking forward. You may notice I will move her today just so you guys can see where I place things in the back and fully understand. Always check your mannequin stand because I can tell that mine is moving too much. All right. So the comb that I was using for the chemical wave is now going to go into items to be disinfected. I'm going to take my hand sanitizer. I'm going to sanitize my hands. And I'm going to step back. And then I'm going to wait for that 5 minutes to go. So let's pretend the 5 minutes was going on while I was parting. When that prompter says, please stop and do nothing until you've been told or nothing further, immediately drop what you're doing and finish it up towards the next procedure. All right, so we talked about your chemical wave. We did that. We talked about cleanups. Now we're going to do the predisposition and the strand test. Awesome sauce. So, predisposition and strand test. I'm going to read what the prompter is going to say. I'm going to talk about what's expected of you, and then I'm going to actually do the procedure. You will perform the predisposition and strand test for the permanent hair color. You will demonstrate the predisposition test behind the ear. You will demonstrate a strand test process on a single subsection of the hair. You will be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 10 minutes to complete this section. Step back to indicate you have finished. She'll say that again, and then she'll say you may begin. Okay, so you are going to be examined on 6 things for this portion of the test. Is your predisposition and strand test supplies labeled in English? So I'm going to talk about this really quickly. When you are doing your predisposition strand test, you're using hair color. So it will be in the color. You can actually put hair color if you want. And this cholesterol needs to be red, not pink, red. You cannot have it in a separate container labeled PD. You need to know that you're using hair color. So I had you guys go ahead and put everything in one bag. This is why, just so you can grab this. Now this bag is not labeled. It says it's labeled in English. What it just means is you got your stuff labeled. However, I do remember, and I did make a note, one of the classes I went to, they don't want you guys actually putting PD for your predisposition test on there, or writing that out. They want to make sure that your implements and supplies are visibly clean, that you demonstrate the predisposition test with a stimulated product behind the ear that you demonstrate, the strand test product with the strand test process with a stimulated product. You maintain drape throughout the entire section, and items to be disinfected, soil linens, and trash are disposed in a correct manner throughout the section. So it's a good bit that they're looking for, but we're about to fully walk through it. So your examiner tells you that you may begin. So the first thing I'm going to do is put on some gloves. I'm not going to sanitize because I'm telling y'all, if you sanitize and then put your gloves on, it's going to be hard to put your gloves on. So go ahead and put your gloves on. Now we're going to do the predisposition test first, and then we're going to do the strand test. So you have 10 minutes to do this. All right, so you're going to open up your bag. Take everything out, and your bag goes in your trash. Very nice. All right, so we're going to do it behind the ear. I'm going to kind of turn her so you guys can see. I'm going to need my hair color. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it. So you can use an antiseptic wipe or an alcohol wipe. Some people have brought like soapy water before, and that goes in the trash. Then you want to always dry every time you accept it. That goes in the trash. You're going to open your color bowl up. You're going to use a Q-tip, and you're going to get a little bit of hair color, and you're not double dipping. So I'm going to go ahead and put the top back on this while I'm not using it at the moment. I'm going to rub about a dime size behind the ear, and I'm going to leave that there. And this immediately goes in the trash. When you're opening up your Band-Aid, go ahead and put all your trash in your trash. Now, using a Band-Aid with gloves is a pain in the butt. So put your thumb behind the padding. Grab the shorter piece first. And we are going to just place this right behind the ear. Now you may want to get a little smaller of a Band-Aid than what I have. And this just goes right behind the ear. Once you've done that, go ahead and throw that away. I don't need this extra Q-tip, so I'm going to throw that away as well. And I did my predisposition. So next thing I'm going to do is my strand test. So your thing tells you can do any strand anywhere on the head. All right, your book tells you do it underneath the crown area, right? So you can pick a side. Since I did my predisposition test here, I'm going to do my strand test on this side as well. So I'm going to do it the book way. I'm going to grab the hair right underneath the crown. So I'm going to take the hair from above the crown area. And this is hair that the sun does not always see. I'm just going to clip this up. And then I'm going to get my foil ready. And my color brush ready. And my hair color, I open it up. Now when you put the top down with any of the cholesterol facing up to the ceiling. You don't want to get red on your towel, trust me. I'm going to stick my brush in, I'm going to kind of give it a swirl. This is the mixing process. It also helps me get some, so go ahead and get enough on your brush at this time. All right, I'm going to grab about a 1/2 inch thick section, maybe about an inch section. So just kind of like a slither. And I'm going to place my foil underneath. Kind of pull that nice and taut. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to double dip. So get enough product as you can. You're going to start at the beginning or the top of the foil, and then you're going to brush all the way down to the ends. You want to make sure it's fully saturated. Once again, remember when you're up at the top, make sure that you are using your brush vertically rather than horizontally. This will not go back in the container. My color brush will immediately go into items to be disinfected. And I'm going to fold my strand test up. Now, strand test, do you leave it in? No, you take it back out. While I'm waiting on this to process, I'm going to go ahead and close my color bowl. I need this later on. However, I know I'm not going to need it until after my foils. So I'm going to go ahead and place my color back in my stack, but I'm going to put it second in my stack rather than first. And then I'm going to look around and see if there's anything else I need to clean up. I've waited about a minute, so I'm going to grab my towel. I'm going to take out my foil and lay my strand on top of the white towel, and the foil goes into the trash. And then I'm going to use my water bottle or spray bottle, and we are going to spray it as best we can. We're going to remove all of the color. Now, if you don't have an extra towel, you can use paper towels. I just really, really like a towel because the towel is going to get the majority of this stuff out. So you look at it, you like it. This goes into your soiled linen. You can take your clip, you can put it back, you can take the tail comb that you were using. This goes into items to be disinfected. Look around, see if there's anything else you don't need. Pretty good. Take your gloves off in a sanitary manner, put them in the trash, and then at this time you have completed your task, so you can sanitize and step back. Watch your hand sanitizer. So that's pretty much it for your predisposition and your strand test. All right, so next thing we're going to work on is the foiling. For your foils, they have you guys start in the front, and I'm going to keep her turned too. Put her down a little bit so you can fully see. They have you guys start in the front hairline. You never do this in the real world. The reason they have y'all do this is because they want to make sure that you know not to put a foil in somebody's face. So I have a few tips/tricks for you to use, but that's the biggest goal. That's why they have you do it in the front hairline. All right, so I'm going to read it, talk about it, then I'm going to do it. All right, so at this time, your prompter at the front says, you will perform highlighting with foil, virgin to application. You will place 4 foils at the top of the head from the front hairline to the apex. You will apply the stimulated highlighting product from the upper edge of the foils to the hair ends. You will be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 15 minutes to complete this section, and you'll be informed when you have 8 minutes remaining. Step back to indicate you have finished. So she'll say that again, and then she'll say you may begin. Sorry, Dawn. All right, there are 7 things that you are being evaluated on. 1, your highlighting and foil supplies are labeled in English. 2, implements and supplies are visibly clean. 3, subsections the hair for highlighting with foils. 4, uses correct foil placement. 5, final results of stimulated product application. So I'll kind of talk about what that is when we get to it. Number 6, maintains drape throughout the entire service. And number 7, items to be disinfected, soiled linens, and trash is all disposed of properly. Yeah, waiting on that bell. All right, so saved by the bell. We are going to go ahead and begin. So at this time, our prompter did her womp. She talked, and she said, you may begin. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab another pair of gloves. I will tell you this. I've even had a student that forgot to pack all her extra gloves and only had 2 pairs throughout the entire client too, and she still made an A. So if that happens, don't freak out. Just, sanitize those gloves in between each one. All right, so I'm going to put on protective gloves, and then I have my students put protective cream right there on the hairline at the front. Protective cream is used more in the salon than taught. So I'm going to just go ahead and place a line of protective cream right there in the front. Put the lid back on. If you are dipping your protective cream or using a stick, make sure you don't double dip for sure. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is get ready for my foils. Let me get my foils out. And you guys have 15 minutes to do this. Your first foil is going to be the one that takes a little bit longer, but then after that you should be fine. So once again, place the lid with the cholesterol facing up, and take your brush and kind of mix up the cholesterol. It's going to emulsify it some for you, make it a little easier. And also, it looks like you're mixing the product. I'm going to place that there, and then I'm going to use my foiling comb. Now, I did have you guys pack a duckbill clip. I do have 2 of them today. This is going to come in handy for this procedure. All right, so in the first meeting I went to, you can either slice or you can either weave. I've always taught weaving, so my students, if you're not good at it, just slice. Now remember, when you're slicing or weaving, both of them, you want to be able to read a magazine through it. All right, so I'm going to take my first slice, make sure I can read through it. And then I'm going to do my weaving to where I can still fold the hair back. I do it to where you can fold it back instead of in the front to the face, so then that's the way you're not going to get marked off, because that's the whole point of you doing it in the front. So go ahead and have your subsection, and then take your weave. And then check to make sure that your weave is even. So if you see there's one area that's chunkier than the other, you can actually take those hairs out. You want to make sure it's more even than anything. So here's the trick. When it comes to your foil, you can either place your foiling comb in and fold inward. That helps hold tension. You can fold outward. That will give you a little bit of extra foil just in case your foil slide a lot. And then one thing I like to do to create a lot of tension is I like to do the method to where I place my comb and my foil right at the base of my weaving and then lay it down like this. It just gives me the maximum amount of tension. So we're going to grab a little bit of product on that brush, and we are going to put the product all the way from the top of the foil down to the end. Make sure it is fully saturated all the way through. I'm going to do some that are not so you guys can hopefully see it. When you get to the tip of the foil, always turn your brush vertically rather than horizontally. The reason you do it vertically is to control any of the product that's going to ooze out. If you go in and lay it down like this, you may have product oozing up this way that comes out of the foil, which is the #1 reason people bleed, and so they're looking for that. So go ahead, and you can fold it once or you can fold it twice. So I'm going to fold it twice to make my foil just a little smaller and hopefully to get it stand up. Now make sure you pull tight. We're not creasing right here. And by leaving a little bit of that foil out in the back, I can kind of fix anything that was moving. Go ahead and place in your side. So now I have to do one behind this one. So I'm going to come in and grab a subsection. You want your subsection to be about 3/4 to 1 inch. And you want to stay even all the way in between. Once again, you guys would be standing behind your mannequin. I'm to the side just so you can see. So with the foil being shorter, you can see that it's kind of standing up. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this subsection behind it, and I'm just going to clip this foil in with this subsection, use a little bit of this hair and wrap it around this clip over here. So now I've controlled the hair and I controlled my foil, and I'm not worried about anything falling in her face. And then I'm going to move on to my next one. So go ahead and take a slice of hair that you can read through. You want to make sure that the slice is just as thick and just as thin as the one before. Make sure you can read through it. Weave it out. Let the hair fall. Grab your foil. Place your foil in your comb. Have maximum tension. Grab some product. Now you can double dip now that we are doing the lightener. We are doing 4 foils, so obviously we need product, more product. make sure that when you lift this hair, alright, I got a notification, so as I was saying, make sure you leave it put on the foil and make sure that if this hair gets lifted that there's still product there. That's one of the things that they're looking for that. If you were to get cholesterol on the tip of your comb at any time, you can use a paper towel to wipe it off and put this in the trash, just so you're not spreading cholesterol out here. Remember, this cholesterol is colored, so they're going to be able to see it. Now, just to make it match that one, you can fold it twice. Grab your next subsection of hair, that's about 3/4 to 1 inch. Brush that back. Make sure it's nice and neat. And then always check to make sure your subsections match. You can check from the sides. And if they don't, add more hair or remove some hair. It's that easy. Alright, so now that I got my next subsection, I'm going to twist this one as well. And I'm just going to clip the hair into my first one, still having it standing. Go ahead and grab your next slither or your next slice. Make sure you can read a magazine through that slice. If it is thicker than you can read a magazine through it, you will have bleeding. Trust me. Weave that out. Make sure that your weaves are nice and thin. Check it. If you have something that's too thick, you can change or maneuver that. Go ahead, place that in. Fully saturated all the way through. Pull it tight. Now for this one, I'm just going to leave a little longer, and you can continue, or you can continue to fold them short, or you can actually do it longer. Now that it's longer, it's going to stand up a little more. So go ahead and grab your next subsection. Alright, and I'm going to just get this out of the way. Practice manipulating the hair. I like to twist it to get full tension with it. And then we're going to do our next foil. So we're working to the apex, which is the highest point of the head, not necessarily the crown. It's weird. Go ahead and take your next slice, and voila. Now, I've had a student that, it was my first year, that got a 0 for the foil, for the retouch, for the virgin, and for, I think, the blood exposure, but then started getting grades for everything else. She still passed state board, and I asked her, well, I know with this particular student, we worked on her foils a lot, and I know her foils were perfect, so I was like, what happened? And she really didn't know. And when I started talking with her, she said, oh, I think it's because I left the brush out. So she left this brush on her table out the entire time and received a 0. So it's just kind of this is what they're serious about when it comes to safety and sanitation. So now that I'm done with the brush, items to be disinfected immediately. Don't even wait. You're done with your lightener. Go ahead and put your lightener in the trash can. Because can we disinfect it? No. Put your top on it, put it in trash. Where will my foiling comb go? It will go into items to be disinfected. Extra foils you can trash or you can keep for the next thing, and I'll show you what you can do with that. Alright, once you're done with your foils, make sure your subsections match even throughout it, but still you can kind of hold them up and you can make sure that they match in between. We're still making sure no hair ends up in her face, and you can let your foils lay. or you can take the clip and you can clip that top one down. One thing I will say, and I know I'm not really timing myself right now, you guys, because I'm just trying to give you the best tips you can. Do not take this first clip and clip all these together. What you have done is you have moved this last foil up at least 1/2 of an inch, and it is slid up. So now there's blue cholesterol all right here at the base of that weave. When your examiner goes to take that, they're going to see blue cholesterol outside of a foil. That's going to mark off points. Okay, so remember, only clipping the first one. Do not clip all of them. I've seen students do that. Other things I've seen students do is not leave the subsections in between. So if you don't know what I mean by subsection, there is a subsection of hair that is not in the foil in between every foil. And you want to make sure that this stays consistent. All right, so everything's done. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of, actually I'm going to keep this clip because I have the same client. I'm going to go ahead and take my gloves off, put them in the trash. I'm going to sanitize my hands, and I'm going to step back and wait for my examiner. Your examiner is going to walk up the moment you step back. They like to stay on the ball throughout this. They are going to take open your foil, and they are going to look to see if it's fully saturated. Are there dry spots? Is the blue cholesterol on all of the hair or just the top portion of the hair? They may even take out your foils and then have you clip it back. Every year is different. Every year have a different story or hear a different story. So just be prepared for any of that. All right, I believe that's it. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just clip this out of the way because we're done with this portion. Take the foils out too. So do not do this at State Board unless they do this. So we're going to pretend our examiner took out our foils. If you drop a foil, this is important. Pick the foil up, put it in the trash can. Grab your hand sanitizer. If you have gloves on, I don't care. Grab your hand sanitizer and sanitize your hands or those gloves. Because anytime you pick something up off the floor, you're now contaminating your hands. Just imagine everything or all the surfaces have Corona on it. I know y'all are sick of me talking about Corona. Alright, so our examiner took our foils out and she told us to just go ahead and put it in a bun, and now everybody's done and we're ready to move on with life.